The bazooka team is dead before Douglas Jacobson even realizes what happened. One moment they're moving up the slope ahead of him, the next moment there's just silence and two bodies crumpled in the black sand. Their launcher lies between them, abandoned, useless. Jacobson is 19 years old, and in the next 75 minutes he's going to do something that will seem impossible when officers try to write it down later. He's going to pick up that two-man weapon and use it alone to destroy 16 fortified Japanese positions on a hill that 3 previous Marine assaults couldn't take. But right now, in this frozen second of February 26, 1945, he doesn't know any of that. All he knows is that 17 men from his company are already dead this morning. 26 more are screaming into the volcanic ash with wounds that will kill some of them before noon, and the entire advance uphill 382 has stopped cold. The Japanese are dug into concrete bunkers on the summit, 125 feet above him. Every approach is covered by machine guns, mortars, anti-tank weapons. The Marines can't see the enemy, they can only see their friends dying. Jacobson looks at the bazooka. 13 pounds of steel tube designed for 2 men, 1 to fire and 1 to load, 4 rockets left in the canvas bag. The weapon is supposed to be impossible to operate alone. The backblast could kill you if you fire it wrong. Reloading takes 2 sets of hands, but those 2 Marines with the proper training are dead, and Company I is dying, and someone has to do something in the next 60 seconds, or this entire section of the 4th Marine Division's assault is going to collapse. Jacobson's hands close around the launcher. He doesn't decide to be a hero, he just decides not to watch any more of his friends die. That decision is about to change everything. 3 months ago, Douglas Jacobson was a lifeguard on Long Island beaches, making sure kids didn't drown in the summer surf. He'd enlisted in the Marine Corps Reserve at 17 by lying about his age because the war looked like it might end before he got his chance to fight. His mother cried when he left. His father shook his hand and told him to come home. Now he's crouched behind a chunk of volcanic rock on an island called Iwo Jima that looks like the surface of a dead planet, and he's starting to understand that home might be something he only gets to think about, not something he gets to see again. The island is 8 square miles of sulfur-stinking volcanic ash and rock. 5 days ago, 30,000 Marines hit the beaches expecting light resistance because that's what intelligence said. Intelligence was catastrophically, murderously wrong. The Japanese commander, Lieutenant General Kuribayashi, spent 8 months turning Iwo Jima into a fortress with 11 miles of tunnels, 1,500 bunkers, and a defensive strategy that boiled down to making the Americans pay in blood for every foot of ground. He's succeeding. In 7 days, the 23rd Marines have lost nearly half their men. Entire squads just vanish, swallowed by machine gun fire from positions you can't see until after they kill you. Hill 382 is the anchor of the whole Japanese defensive line in the north. From the summit, observers can direct fire across half the island. The hill itself is a maze of interconnected bunkers, each one reinforced with concrete and positioned to cover the others. Attack one position and 3 others shred you with crossfire. It's brilliant defensive engineering, and it's been absolutely effective. 2 companies tried to take this hill yesterday. They left 63 dead Marines on the slope and gained exactly nothing. Now it's Company I's turn, and the same thing is happening again. At 0900 hours, they started up the slope and immediately walked into a meat grinder. A 20mm anti-aircraft gun positioned at the base opened up first, tearing through the lead squad. Then mortars started dropping, then machine guns from positions nobody can locate. The Marines went to ground fast, but the damage was done. 17 dead, 26 wounded, and the advance stopped before it really started. Jacobson watches the bazooka team get hit. They were good Marines, careful, well-trained, didn't matter. The 20mm found them and cut them down in seconds. Their launcher fell between them, still loaded, 1 rocket in the tube and 3 more in the bag. Standard doctrine says you need 2 men to operate a bazooka effectively. One steadies and fires, the other loads and watches for the backblast danger zone. Running it alone means you're trying to do 2 jobs at once while people are actively trying to kill you, and the weapon weighs 13 pounds and the rockets weigh 3 pounds each, and you have to aim and fire and reload under pressure without blowing yourself up or missing the target because you only get a few shots before someone figures out where you are and ends you. Jacobson isn't thinking about doctrine or training manuals. He's thinking about the 26 wounded Marines screaming in the ash and the fact that company, I can't move forward and can't stay here. Every minute they're pinned down, more people die. The Japanese have this slope registered for mortars. They've got machine guns covering every approach. They've got this whole assault timed and measured and defeated before it starts. Unless something changes in the next few minutes, this attack is over and everyone who died this morning died for nothing. That's when Jacobson stops thinking and starts moving. Jacobson moves low and fast, zagging through the volcanic ash toward the dead bazooka team. Bullets snap past his head with sounds like angry wasps. One round hits the ground 6 inches from his left hand, throwing black sand into his face. He keeps moving because stopping means dying. 30 yards feels like 30 miles, but he makes it, dropping flat behind the same rock that failed to save the 2 Marines. Their bodies are still warm. He doesn't look at their faces. Looking at faces is how you stop functioning. He grabs the launcher and drags it behind cover, then reaches back for the canvas bag with the remaining rockets. The weight feels wrong in his hands, unbalanced, because he's used to sharing this load with another Marine. Now it's all on him. He checks the weapon quickly, muscle memory from training taking over. 1 rocket already loaded, 3 more ready. The 20mm anti-aircraft gun is still firing, still chewing up Marines, still making it impossible for anyone to advance. That's target number 1. The gun is positioned 35 yards downslope, dug into a natural depression with only the barrel visible. The crew inside that depression is protected from everything except a direct hit. Jacobson calculates angles, wind, the slight upward trajectory he needs. His hands are shaking, but he can't tell if it's fear or adrenaline or both. He shoulders the launcher, feels the weight settle against his collarbone, sights down the tube. The back blast zone behind him is clear, no Marines close enough to get hurt. Small blessing. He exhales half a breath and squeezes the trigger. The rocket motor ignites with a sound like ripping metal. White smoke and flame erupt from the rear of the tube, washing over the ground behind him, heating the air so fast he feels it on his neck. The rocket streaks down slope, almost too fast to track, and punches into the depression where the anti-air aft gun sits. The explosion is sharp and bright, a crack of thunder followed by secondary detonations as ammunition cooks off. Smoke boils up, black and chemical smelling. The 20mm goes silent. For 3 seconds, everything on the slope seems to stop. Marines who'd been hugging the ground lift their heads. Then someone yells and company I starts moving again, using the smoke for cover, advancing through gaps Jacobson just created. But 3 seconds is all the pause they get, because the Japanese have plenty more positions, and now they know exactly where the bazooka is. Machine gun fire walks across the rocks near Jacobson's head, forcing him to roll left into a shallow crater. Bullets spark off volcanic stone. A mortar round hits 40 feet away, throwing shrapnel that hisses through the air like hot rain. He scrambles to reload, hands moving fast, muscle memory fighting against the awkwardness of doing this alone. The rocket is 3 pounds of tube and explosive shaped charge warhead designed to punch through armor. He slides it into the launcher, connects the electrical wire, makes sure it's seated properly. 15 seconds to reload solo when it should take 5 with a partner. That's 15 seconds of being a stationary target. Another machine gun opens up from higher on the slope, this one positioned to catch Marines in the flank as they advance. Jacobson watches 2 men go down, watches a third drag them to cover, while bullets tear up the ground. The gun is in a reinforced position, concrete walls and a narrow firing slit. Professional work, carefully constructed, designed to be nearly impossible to destroy. Nearly. Jacobson shifts position, angles for a better shot, settles the launcher on his shoulder again. The second shot is going to be harder. Now the Japanese know he's here. They're looking for him. They're already adjusting fire to take him out. He's got maybe 30 seconds before someone succeeds. The machine gun nest is 70 yards upslope, and Jacobson can barely see it, just the muzzle flash strobing in the shadows of the concrete slit. The position is built into the hillside itself, reinforced with steel and concrete, designed to withstand naval bombardment. A battleship couldn't scratch it from offshore. But Jacobson isn't offshore, and he's not shooting battleship shells. He's got shaped charge rockets that concentrate explosive force into a jet of superheated copper, moving at 4 miles per second, and if he can put one through that firing slit, the crew inside dies. Big if. The slit is maybe 18 inches wide, 70 yards away, and he's shooting uphill with a weapon that bucks like a mule when it fires. Miss by a foot, and the rocket bounces off concrete, and he's wasted a shot and revealed his position for nothing. He settles his breathing, tries to stop his hands from shaking, lines up the shot. The machine gun swings toward him, tracers walking across the volcanic ash, getting closer. He's got seconds. Maybe less. He fires. The rocket leaps from the tube, motor burning white, back blast washing over the rocks behind him with heat that singes the hair on the back of his neck. For half a second he tracks the flight, watching the smoke trail angle upward, and then the rocket disappears into the darkness of the firing slit, like it was aimed by God himself. The explosion comes from inside the bunker, muffled by concrete but absolutely catastrophic for anyone in the enclosed space. Smoke and debris blow out through the slit. The machine gun stops firing. Jacobson doesn't have time to feel anything about that because 2 more positions open up immediately. Japanese gunners adjusting to the threat, trying to kill him before he kills them. He rolls right as mortars start dropping, 3 rounds in. Quick succession that turn his previous position into a crater. Shrapnel screams overhead. His ears are ringing so badly he can barely hear. Volcanic ash is in his mouth, his eyes ground into every crease of his uniform. He drags the launcher with him, scrambling for new cover, trying to reload while moving and nearly dropping the 3rd rocket. That's when he sees the tank. Japanese Type 95 Hago, light tank, rising from a concealed position on the eastern slope, like a monster coming out of a grave. The diesel engine growls, tracks clanking on rock, turret traversing. The 37mm gun is swinging toward the Marines below, the ones who'd advanced through the gap he created, the ones who are now completely exposed. If that tank opens fire, it'll kill a dozen men in the first 10 seconds. Jacobson's 3rd rocket is loaded, but his position is terrible. No angle, no cover. The tank 75 yards away and moving. The commander's hatch is open, a Japanese officer visible from the chest up, scanning the slope with binoculars. Doctrine says aim for the turret ring or the engine deck, the weakest points of armor. Doctrine assumes you're shooting from cover with a clear shot. Jacobson has neither. The tank's machine gun opens up, spraying fire across the slope, forcing him flat. He can't get a shot from here. He has to move. He grabs the launcher and runs up slope at an angle, legs pumping, lungs burning, waiting for the bullet that's going to end this. The tank gunner sees him moving, swings the bow machine gun toward him. Tracers kick up ash at his feet. He dives behind a cluster of volcanic boulders, rolls, comes up with the launcher already on his shoulder. The angle is better now, the tank's side armor exposed, but he's completely exposed too. If he misses this shot, the machine gun will cut him apart. His hands steady, his breathing stops, everything in. The world narrows down to the sight picture and the trigger pull. He fires. The rocket hits the tank's engine deck and turns the Hago into a steel coffin. Secondary explosions rip through the vehicle as ammunition cooks off, turret lifting slightly from the force, black smoke pouring from every hatch. 2 crew members bail out, uniforms on fire, and Marines cut them down before they take 3 steps. The tank settles into the ash, burning, finished. That's 4 Japanese positions destroyed in maybe 10 minutes, and Jacobson's down to 1 rocket. 1 rocket. 16 positions on this hill when the assault started, 4 destroyed, 12 remaining, and Company I is still pinned down because the Japanese defense is layered and interlocking and brilliant. Every bunker covers 2 others, every machine gun nest has supporting fire, every approach is a kill zone. The 4th Marine Division has been grinding against this island for 7 days and gained ground measured in yards, not miles. Marines are dying faster than replacements can land. At this rate, the battle for Iwo Jima could last months and cost 50,000 casualties, and there's serious talk at command level about whether this island is even worth the price. But that's strategic thinking, and Jacobson doesn't have time for strategy. He's got tactical problems. Immediate problems. The kind that kill you in the next 60 seconds if you don't solve them. A cluster of 3 positions on the western slope, rifle pits and machine gun nests arranged in a triangle, each supporting the others, none of them vulnerable to a single shot. They're chewing up the Marine advance, forcing everyone to ground, and if they're not neutralized soon, the whole attack stalls again. Jacobson abandons the bazooka. 1 rocket left and 3 positions means he can't solve this with firepower alone. He needs to get creative. He pulls 2 fray mentation grenades from his belt, checks the pins, calculates distances and angles. The rifle pits are 20 yards apart. Machine gun nests between them, all three positions focused on the Marines below. Nobody's looking behind them. Nobody expects a lone Marine to flank the entire defensive line because that's tactically insane and probably suicidal. Jacobson moves laterally across the slope, using every depression and boulder for cover, working his way around the Japanese positions. His uniform is soaked with sweat despite the February cold. His hands are blistered from the bazooka, shoulders bruised from recoil, ears still ringing from explosions. Every muscle is screaming. He ignores it. Marines are dying while he moves, and that's all the motivation he needs. He reaches the first rifle pit from behind, peers over the edge. Two Japanese soldiers, both focused downslope, rifles braced against volcanic rock. They're young, maybe younger than Jacobson, and they're terrified. He can see it in how they hold their weapons, how they flinch at every explosion. They're expecting to die today, probably within the hour, and they're trying to take as many Marines with them as possible. Orders from Kuribayashi, the Japanese commander. No retreat, no surrender. Make the Americans pay in blood for every position. Jacobson pulls the pin on the first grenade, counts 2 seconds, drops it into the pit. The explosion is sharp and final. He's moving before the smoke clears, sprinting toward the machine gun nest, pulling the second grenade. The gunner hears him coming, tries to swing the weapon around, but machine guns aren't built for close-range defense. Jacobson throws the grenade through the firing slit and dives flat as it detonates. The gun goes silent. The third rifle pit erupts with fire, two soldiers shooting blindly, panicked, knowing they're flanked and doomed. Jacobson lings his M1 Garand, 8 rounds loaded, and drops them both with aimed shots at 30 yards. The firing stops. 3 positions neutralized without using the last rocket. That's 7 Japanese strongpoints destroyed since 0900 hours, and Company I is finally advancing past the base of the hill, using the corridor he carved alone. But the worst is still coming. Company I gains 50 yards in the next 5 minutes, the fastest advance since the assault began. Marines leapfrog between cover, fire teams moving in coordinated rushes, sergeants shouting orders that get lost in the noise of ongoing combat. Wounded are dragged to collection points where corpsmen work with hands red to the elbows. The dead are left where they fell because there's no time and no spare hands to move them. That's a problem for later, for the graves registration teams that follow battles and count bodies and try to give names to remains. Jacobson retrieves the bazooka and his last rocket moves upslope with the advance. His legs are shaking from exhaustion and adrenaline crash. The initial surge of fear-driven energy is fading, and what's replacing it is harder to push through. Just tired. Bone deep, muscle aching tired. His uniform is stiff with dried sweat and volcanic ash. His canteen is empty, discarded somewhere downslope. His throat feels like sandpaper. A corpsman sees him, tries to wave him over to check for wounds. Jacobson waves him off. He's not hit. Not yet. The corpsman has 3 Marines laid out on stretchers, working to stop bleeding from shrapnel wounds, and he doesn't need to waste time on someone who can still fight. Jacobson keeps moving because stopping means thinking, and thinking means remembering the faces of the bazooka team and the 2 Japanese kids in the rifle pit and all the ways this can still go wrong. The summit of Hill 382 is 60 feet above him now, clearly visible, absolutely dominated by Japanese positions. 6 fortifications in a semicircle, interlocking fields of fire, prepared to stop any assault. Observation posts directing artillery, mortar pits dropping rounds with practiced precision, machine gun nests covering every approach. The Japanese up there know the Marines are coming, and they're ready, and they've got all the advantages of high ground and prepared positions. Battalion command is watching through binoculars from a position 300 yards east. They've seen what Jacobson did, 7 positions destroyed by 1 Marine in maybe 20 minutes, and they're trying to figure out how to capitalize on it. Artillery is being redirected, supporting fires adjusted, additional units preparing to exploit the breach. This is how victories happen in warfare, not through brilliant strategy, but through some random private doing something impossible and command being smart enough to pour resources through the gap before it closes. But gaps do close. The Japanese are already adjusting, pulling troops from other positions, reinforcing the summit, preparing for the next assault. That's the nature of this battle, this island, this war. Nothing stays won. Every advantage is temporary, every position captured has to be held against counterattack, and every yard gained costs blood to keep. Jacobson finds cover behind a destroyed bunker, one of the ones he hit earlier. The interior is scorched, walls blackened by explosive and fire, and there's a smell he's trying not to think about. He checks his remaining ammunition. 1 rocket for the bazooka, 43 rounds for the Garand, 2 grenades. Not much to assault 6 fortified positions with, but it's what he has. Other Marines are scattered around him. 2 squads maybe, 18 men total out of the 40+ that started the assault this morning. Everyone else is dead, wounded or pinned down further back. A lieutenant he doesn't recognize crawls up beside him, maps out, trying to coordinate the next push. The lieutenant is maybe 22, recent officer candidate school graduate, and he's doing his best to project confidence he clearly doesn't feel. His hands shake when he points at the map. He asks Jacobson if he thinks they can take the summit. Jacobson doesn't answer because he doesn't know, and saying so won't help anyone. Instead, he asks where the lieutenant wants the last rocket. The officer points to an observation post at the top of the semicircle. Take that out and the other positions lose coordination. Jacobson nods. That was going to be his target anyway. The observation post is the key to everything, and the Japanese know it. They've positioned it 70 yards upslope, reinforced concrete, multiple firing slits, probably a dozen soldiers inside with radios and observation equipment. From that position they can direct fire across the entire northern approach to Iwo Jima. Artillery, mortars, machine guns, everything coordinated through that one bunker. Destroy it, and the Japanese defense loses cohesion. Miss it, and Marines keep dying in coordinated crossfires until the attack collapses. Jacobson circles right, trying to find an angle that doesn't put him in front of 3 machine gun nests. There isn't one. Every approach is covered, every gap is a kill zone. The Japanese engineers who designed this defense knew exactly what they were doing. He's going to have to make his own gap and hope he's fast enough to exploit it. He loads the last rocket, the 13th he's fired today, the final one in the canvas bag. After this he's down to grenades and rifle and whatever he can do with his hands. The observation post has a narrow firing slit facing downslope, maybe 2 feet wide, reinforced with steel. Hit it and the rocket goes inside, fails to penetrate, and he's wasted his shot. He needs to aim for the wall itself, the thinner side panel where concrete meets volcanic rock, blast through and let the explosion do the work inside. Machine guns open up as he moves into position, tracers snapping past his head. A mortar round impacts 30 feet away, throwing rock and ash that peppers his back like buckshot. He ignores it. His whole world narrows to the sight picture, the target, the trigger pull. Nothing else exists. Not the noise, not the danger, not the exhaustion or fear or doubt, just the shot. He fires. The rocket motor ignites. The backblast washes over ground already scorched from previous shots. The projectile streaks upslope and punches into the concrete wall exactly where he aimed. The explosion is muffled by the reinforced structure, but he sees debris blow out through the firing slits, sees smoke and dust, sees the whole building shudder. Secondary explosions follow as ammunition inside cooks off. The observation post goes dark. Radio's dead, observers dead, coordination gone. For maybe 5 seconds, the Japanese defense loses its coherence. Machine gun crews fire blindly, mortar crews shoot at pre-registered coordinates that Marines aren't at anymore. The whole interlocking system falls apart. 5 seconds, that's all company I needs. They surge up the slope like a wave, Marines screaming, firing from the hip, covering each other through practiced fire and movement. The Lieutenant Jacobson talked to earlier is in front, pistol raised, getting his men moving through the chaos. Rifle pits are cleared with grenades, machine gun nests bypassed or destroyed, the momentum of the assault finally breaking through. Jacobson drops the empty bazooka launcher. 13 pounds of steel that saved Company I, and cost him his shoulders and hands and hearing. He unslings the Garand, Raxaru. ND joins the assault. This is rifle work now, close-range fighting. The kind where you see faces and smell fear, and there's no distance between killer and killed. A Japanese soldier appears from a hidden spider hole, rifle raised. Jacobson shoots him twice before he can fire. Another soldier throws a grenade from a trench, the explosion too close, shrapnel tearing through Jacobson's left sleeve and drawing blood. He doesn't stop. Can't stop. Stopping means dying, and he's come too far to die now. The summit of Hill 382 is 20 yards away. Marines are fighting for every foot, clearing positions with bayonets and rifle butts and grenades. Some positions surrender, hands raised, but most fight to the last man because those are their orders. No retreat, no surrender. Make the Americans pay. They're paying. God, they're paying. But they're winning. The summit falls at 1100 hours, 2 hours after the assault began. Marines plant an American flag in the volcanic ash at the peak, and the symbolism matters even though the battle is nowhere near over. Scattered Japanese positions still resist, snipers pick off unwary targets, and the entire eastern approach remains contested. But Hill 382's primary defensive line is broken. The interconnected fortress that stopped 3 previous assaults is now a collection of destroyed bunkers and dead defenders. Jacobson collapses behind a shattered concrete wall, legs finally giving out, lungs burning. He's got blood on his hands and his uniform, and he can't tell how much is his and how much belongs to other people. The cut on his left arm is bleeding through the field, dressing a corpsman slapped on 5 minutes ago, but it's shallow, through muscle, not arteries, the kind of wound that gets you a Purple Heart and 2 weeks of sympathy and nothing else. Around him, Marines are doing the same calculation he is, checking themselves all holes, counting remaining ammunition, looking for friends who should be here but aren't. A sergeant does a quick head count and comes up with numbers that make him look sick. Of the 43 men who started this assault with Company I, 19 are still combat effective. 17 dead, 7 wounded bad enough to need evacuation. Those are catastrophic casualties, the kind that get units pulled from the line for reconstitution. Except there are no reserve units on Iwo Jima. Everyone fights until they're dead, wounded, or the island is secured. The battlefield smells like cordite and sulfur. And something worse that Jacobson's trying not to think about. Smoke drifts across the summit, carried by wind that's cold, despite the February sun. In the distance, the sound of ongoing combat reminds everyone that taking Hill 382 doesn't mean taking Iwo Jima. The island is still a fortress, still defended by 20,000 Japanese soldiers who've got orders to die before surrendering. An officer Jacobson doesn't recognize, a captain with 1st Battalion insignia, climbs to the summit and starts organizing the defense. The Japanese will counterattack, probably after dark, trying to retake the high ground. That's doctrine, that's what they always do. Marines start digging in, preparing fighting positions, stringing communication wire, establishing fields of fire. The position that took all morning to capture has to be held or the whole effort was wasted. The captain finds Jacobson, asks his name and unit. Jacobson tells him. The captain asks if he's the Marine who ran the bazooka solo, destroyed 13 positions. Jacobson says 14 actually, and the observation post makes 15, plus the tank makes 16 total if you're counting vehicles. The captain stares at him like he's trying to determine if this exhausted, blood-covered 19-year-old is exaggerating or insane or actually did what multiple witnesses say he did. The captain tells him to rest, get water, find a corpsman if he needs one. Jacobson nods but doesn't move. Rest sounds impossible. His body is shutting down, adrenaline crash hitting like a physical weight. And if he closes his eyes, he's going to see faces he doesn't want to see. The 2 Marines from the bazooka team, names he never learned. The Japanese kids in the rifle pit who looked terrified right up until the grenade landed. All the bodies scattered down the slope below, American and Japanese. Dead because this island matters for reasons Jacobson doesn't fully understand and probably never will. A corpsman brings him water and an actual hot meal. Sea rations heated over a fuel tab. And it tastes like the best thing he's ever eaten, even though objectively it's terrible. He eats slowly, mechanically, and tries to remember if he ate breakfast this morning before the assault. He can't remember. The whole morning before 0900 is a blur, and everything after is unnaturally sharp and clear, each moment etched into memory with absolute precision. That's what combat does. Erases the unimportant and burns in everything else. Hill 382 holds through the night. The Japanese counterattack at 0200 hours. Infiltration tactics in the darkness, trying to retake the summit through stealth and surprise. They fail. Marines kill them in the dark with rifles and grenades and bayonets, fighting at ranges measured in feet. And when dawn breaks, the hill is still American. Bodies litter the slope, Japanese soldiers who died trying to follow orders that were impossible from the start. The battle for Iwo Jima continues for another 3 weeks. Marines push north and west, clearing bunkers and caves, fighting for every yard. The Japanese defensive strategy works exactly as Kuribayashi planned it. American casual. Ties are catastrophic. Over 6,800 Marines die, another 19,000 are wounded, rates not seen since the Civil War. But the island falls. Every bunker is cleared, every tunnel sealed or burned out with flamethrowers, every Japanese position eliminated. Of the 21,000 Japanese defenders, only 216 surrender. The rest die. Kuribayashi's orders followed to the absolute bitter end. No retreat, no surrender, make the Americans pay. They paid. God, they paid. But they won. Douglas Jacobson survives. That's worth stating because survival isn't guaranteed in combat and plenty of heroes die before anyone knows they did something worth remembering. He fights through the rest of the Iwo Jima campaign, it's promoted to corporal in April, and ships back to the United States when the island is finally secured. He doesn't talk much about what happened on Hill 382. Most combat veterans don't. The weight of those memories is personal and heavy and difficult to share with people who weren't there. On October 5, 1945, President Harry Truman awards Jacobson the Medal of Honor in a White House ceremony. The citation reads like something from fiction. 16 fortified Japanese positions destroyed, 75 enemy soldiers killed, 75 minutes of sustained combat using a weapon designed for 2 men. The numbers don't convey the reality, they can't. Numbers don't bleed, don't shake with exhaustion, don't make impossible decisions in seconds and live with the consequences forever. Jacobson stays in the Marines. He serves in Japan, Okinawa, China, Vietnam. He retires as a major after 24 years, having seen more combat and more countries and more death than any person should have to witness. He marries, has children, lives a quiet life in Maryland. When people ask about the Medal of Honor, he tells them he was just doing Is Job. That real heroes are the ones who didn't come home. That's what most recipients say. The weight of survival, the guilt of living when friends died, it never goes away. He dies in 2000 at age 75, surrounded by family, in a hospital bed thousands of miles from volcanic ash and concrete bunkers and a hill that tried its absolute best to kill him. His obituary mentions the Medal of Honor, mentions Hill 382, mentions the 16 positions. It doesn't mention the nightmares, the way loud noises made him flinch for decades, the mornings he woke up at 3 a.m. back on that slope with his hands shaking. Those details aren't for obituaries, they're the private cost of public heroism. The Marine Corps still teaches Hill 382 in combat courses, the tactics, the audacity, the proof that individual initiative can turn impossible situations into victories. They teach the numbers and the strategy and the outcomes. They can't teach what it felt like to be Douglas Jacobson on February 26, 1945, picking up a bazooka with 4 rockets and deciding that 17 dead Marines was enough, that 26 wounded was enough, that one person could change everything if they refused to accept that change was impossible. You can't teach that. You either have it when the moment comes or you don't. Jacobson had it. That's why we remember his name. 75 years later, Hill 382 is just geography. The bunkers are gone, the tunnels sealed, the volcanic ash reclaimed by scrub grass and wind. Tourists visit Iwo Jima occasionally, mostly Japanese civilians and American veterans or their families, walking ground that used to be soaked with blood. The island is quiet now, peaceful. It's impossible to imagine the noise, the terror, the absolute chaos that consumed this place for 36 days in 1945. But the story remains. In Marine Corps mess halls and training rooms, in military history, books and Medal of Honor registries, in the memories of families who lost fathers or grandfathers on volcanic slopes 8,000 miles from home. Hill 382 represents something fundamental about warfare and human nature. The impossible can be overcome. One person can make a difference. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's acting despite fear because the alternative is watching friends die. Douglas Jacobson never claimed to be special. He insisted he was ordinary, that anyone would have done the same thing in his position. Maybe that's true. Maybe every Marine who hit those beaches had the same capacity for extraordinary courage under impossible circumstances. Or maybe Jacobson was special in ways he couldn't recognize in himself. Ways that only become visible when ordinary people are tested in extraordinary conditions. What's certain is this. On February 26, 1945, a 19-year-old lifeguard from Long Island picked up a two-man weapon and used it alone to break a fortress that had stopped multiple assaults. 16 Japanese positions destroyed in 75 minutes. 75 Marines given a chance to live because one Marine refused to let them die. That's not strategy or tactics or firepower. That's one person deciding that impossible doesn't mean unachievable. The volcanic ash and the smoke and the bodies have all faded into history. That decision, and what it represents about human courage, never will.